If you were president, would you advocate for federal limits?
Yeah. So once again, I'm 100% pro-life, and I do believe
yes.
that. No, that's not what I said. I do believe that we should have a robust conversation about what's happening on a very important topic.
Republicans have been having a tough time figuring out how to talk about abortion ever since the Supreme Court struck down Roe last year. And it has been particularly awkward for Republican presidential candidates. But today, Nikki Haley, the lone woman among the declared Republican candidates, she chose to confront abortion head on in a speech in Arlington, Virginia. Haley was speaking at the headquarters of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America offices, which recently criticized Trump for his campaign position that abortion policy should be decided at the state level and not by the federal government. Now, Haley's speech had all the trappings of a big campaign-defining policy speech, except that when she actually delivered it, there were no specifics, no policy, no endorsement of a national ban after a specific number of weeks of pregnancy, nothing, no details. Just vibes about forging national consensus on abortion. But the problem with that, for a Republican at least, is that the national consensus on abortion, held by more than 60% of this country, is that abortion should be legal, which is not where Republican candidates or lawmakers happen to be. And Republican lawmakers in Congress today have now manufactured a stalemate over abortion, one that could imperil our country's military readiness, at least according to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. In February, the Defense Department announced new policies that would give troops and their family members paid leave and stipends to travel for abortions or for fertility treatments. Ever since, Senator Tommy Tuberville from Atlanta, who sits on the Armed Services Committee, he has been up in arms about that policy change. And as sort of a comeuppance to the Defense Department, Tuberville has intentionally stalled nearly 200 military promotions and nominations for the past 2 months. Defense Secretary Austin and others have been very clear here. Throwing sand in the gears of the military could cripple America's national security, but Senator Tuberville has promised to continue this protest until the DOD changes its abortion policy. Today, after a back and forth on the Senate floor, Tuberville blocked a request by Senator Elizabeth Warren to allow those military promotions to move forward. Tuberville is holding up basic military staffing, including nominations for our next military representative to NATO and for the Director of Intelligence for U.S. Cyber Command, both of which seem, fairly important. Here's what Senator Warren had to say.
Holding up the promotion of every single military nominee isn't democracy, it's extortion.
Joining us now is Senator Elizabeth Warren, the Democrat from Massachusetts and member of the Armed Services Committee. Senator Warren, thank you so much for being here. I would love to get your reaction to Tommy Tuberville's latest defense of his actions, saying the military has too many generals and admirals. What do you make of that?
So let me just remind everybody how this starts. Everyone's familiar with the fact that the Senate has to approve judges, has to approve cabinet officials, has to approve ambassadors. Turns out that for all of our top-ranking military, they also have to be approved by the Senate. So when someone is promoted from colonel to brigadier general, they have to be approved by the Senate. This is always done routinely. They're done in a big package, and it just goes through. In fact, there's usually not even a recorded vote on this. And what's happened is because of the Department of Defense's policy on permitting people who are in a state, at a military installation in a state that prohibits certain reproductive right, access to reproductive health care, they can leave the state. The military says you can go away for a few days, get the care that you need. That's the policy. Senator Tuberville is now holding 184 of our military people, everybody who has come up since he's put a hold in place. And this means the people don't get their promotions, they don't get their pay bumps, and they don't get to go to the postings where the military wants to send them, like the head of the 7th Fleet or the head of the 5th Fleet or the head of the Cyber Command. And it's true for military up and down the line in this whole area where I just want to think about what that means. Senator Tuberville actually stood there and said, in effect, we don't need these people. There are already too many generals, too many admirals, too many officers. And his solution to that is just to try to drop the hammer on all of them as a way to try to lever the Department of Defense to crack down on people who are at military installations in states that ban access to abortion or IVF or other reproductive health services. It's truly stunning and terrible for our military readiness and overall for our national defense.
I mean, I just got to say, the politics of this for a Republican are so patently insane. The fact that we have Elizabeth Warren criticizing Tommy Tuberville on military readiness is like bizarre. I mean, honestly, seems like bizarro world. Do you think his newfound line of defense that we just have too many admirals is indicative of someone who is feeling the heat and eventually is going to cave on this issue?
You know, I genuinely don't know what it's going to take ultimately to move Senator Tuberville. But it is the reminder about what the underlying strategy of the Republicans is. They keep looking for places to extend, to expand, to create a situation where abortion is front and center and where there are extremist views that are completely out of touch with the majority of Americans are going to be hammered down and forced on everybody in this country. And that's what makes this so important to fight back. It is insulting to our military, it is threatening to our national defense, and it is ultimately one more statement that if the Republicans have the power, they are going to cram their extremist abortion views down on all of the rest of America.
They will cram their abortion views down the throat of the rest of America when they themselves can actually figure out what they want to some degree as well, right? I mean, you're seeing national Republican figures like Nikki Haley and Tim Scott absolutely falling all over themselves to try and stake out a position that appears to appease the anti-choice caucus within their party, but that does not doom their chances at a national election. I mean, how do you think the Republican Party resolves this? Does this inevitably head towards something like Lindsey Graham's proposed national ban after 15 weeks? I mean, how do you see Republicans eventually ultimately circling the wagons on this one?
You know, I actually see this is what extremism is all about. They just get themselves tied into a tighter and tighter and tighter knot. And they should continue to get pressure from everyone else to state their positions clearly and out in public because they understand that they are out of touch. They understand that they are going where the majority of Americans very much do not want them to go. They understand that they are the ones who are provoking Americans across this country to stand up and say, wait, I've had enough of this. We are not going to put up with this. We are going to fight back. Let's face it. In the 2024 election, abortion will be on the ballot.
Do you think, on that note, President Biden announced he's running for re-election today. Do you think the administration has staked out enough of an offensive posture on the subject of abortion? Because the state-level regulations, the lawsuits that we're seeing across the country at the state level and to some degree the federal level have created mass confusion. Women's lives hang in the balance. There's a real question about what, quote-unquote, freedom means in America these days. Do you think the administration is doing enough? Is President Biden doing enough to articulate a vision for reproductive freedom should he be reelected in 2024?
You know, I have to say, I watched that video this morning, and I love the fact that one of the very first words in it is freedom, and that he really is taking this word back for Democrats. And to me, it was just the loud and clear signal. We stand on one side and extremist Republicans are on the other. And the side we stand on truly is about freedom. It's about women making their own decisions about abortion, their own decisions about IVF, their own decisions about birth control. It's about people being treated with respect and having that kind of ability to be able to determine their own futures. And for the president to just come straight out of the box with that's where he wants to lead, I like that kind of leadership. And then the fact that he can bring in Vice President Harris to just punch it home. I like the position that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are in on abortion. I think it's the fight that the American people want to see. We need to expose what the Republicans are up to and make it clear that we are the party that stand for access to abortion, stand for access to birth control. We will be there on the side of American women all across this country.
She likes President Biden's odds. You heard it here first. Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.